Hello and welcome to episode number 51 of the Everyday Spirituality Podcast. My name is Jim Hazelwood and I host this mostly weekly podcast. Right now we are working our way through the book Everyday Spirituality, and this episode includes chapter 10, which begins the second section. The book is divided into 3 sections: things we do every day, things we do every week, and things we do every once in a while. So friend begins the second section in things we do every week. This podcast is made possible by contribution from the Mission Investment Fund of the ELCA. Jerry Loro is our Northeast representative. They help pay for all of the loading, the equipment, the web hosting, and so forth and so on. My time is donated because I enjoy this work. I'm in the middle of trying to catch up on a couple of different projects in relationship to the book Everyday Spirituality, including we are about to begin working on a Spanish language translation of the book. So that is something to look forward to in 2020. But for now, let's go to this episode. Friendship, the importance of having friends, and the value of friends as an expression of everyday spirituality. Let's enjoy this episode.
Section 2. Things we do every week. Chapter 10. Friend. Every Thursday evening, Donna drives 30 minutes out of her way for dinner and trivia night at a restaurant. It's the highlight of her week amidst the frantic pace of modern living. Years ago, Donna was depressed and bitter at the world she had created. She had a life of children, a hard-working spouse, constant family activity, and her own hectic and demanding job. It was the life she wanted when she first got married, but it had begun to devour her. She suffered from a mild depression, and though it was not clinically defined as such, her life was marked by many of the signs of depression: great unease, poor sleep, weight gain, and a sense of purposelessness. She was headed for trouble. Through a long series of late-night conversations with her husband, she realized the one thing that would save her soul: friendship. The couple had lots of activities and people in their lives, but Donna needed deeper relationships. She longed to spend regular time with the people she knew best. Hoping for a time of honest conversation, no drama and little planning, she initiated contact with Mary, an old friend from high school, and the two reconnected easily. Mary lives in the seaside town of Hingham, Massachusetts, while Donna lives in the suburb of Sudbury, Massachusetts. The distance between them is 45 minutes, if there are no other cars on the road, but the reality of Boston traffic made the drive a nightmare. After several telephone conversations, they hit upon the idea of a weekly evening out with several women in a central location. The first several dinners were fun and helped reconnect with their disparate lives, but by the 4th dinner, they had covered all their backstories, and it seemed their outings were in danger of falling apart. On the 5th night, one of the women arrived with the card game Trivial Pursuit. The idea was to play one round that evening, but instead, a new routine was born. Now, every Thursday, Donna, Mary, and 3 other friends meet at the same restaurant for its weekly trivia night. "It's not the trivia I care about. None of us do," Donna told me. "It's the regular, consistent contact with people who are my friends. We talk about everything from family to politics to hobbies." When I asked if they talked about faith, she paused before answering. "If you mean religion or God or church, then I'd have to say no, not really. But if you mean life and hopes and disappointments, then I'd say definitely." This short vignette highlights one of the central tenets of this book, namely that people are finding their spirituality in ways that are not traditionally thought of as spiritual practices. While overt God talk is not a part of Donna and Mary's group, it's clear that friendship is a source of life, renewal, connection. In many ways, this group of friends saved Donna's soul. She was headed for an emotional and possibly family breakdown before discovering that her spirituality is in communion with friends. Countless studies highlight the increasing loneliness of Americans. In 2018, the Cigna Insurance Group reported that Americans are lonelier than they have been in decades. Another study on loneliness conducted in 2010 made the same startling discovery that extreme loneliness has the same detrimental effects as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. As society has adopted a more rapid pace of communication and activity, we have found ourselves increasingly isolated from one another. Social media can reinforce our isolation as we view others' cheery posts with pictures of happy children and beautiful vacations. The reality is that we are all more alone than ever. I know what Donna was describing when she said her chaotic life was void of meaningful friendships. Shortly after I was elected bishop of the New England Synod, I realized that the job would entail a changed dynamic in many of my relationships. It was not the long hours by myself driving or flying that were isolating. I rather enjoy time alone. What had changed was the dynamic in my relationships. No longer could I be open and honest about my thoughts, feelings, and life activities. Now there was a small distance that required me to be aware of what I was saying. That distance comes with the territory of leadership and increased public responsibility. I quickly realized that I needed a group of people, or more accurately, friends, people who accept me for all my faults as well as my gifts. I made an intentional decision to befriend or refriend several people I had lost contact with over the decades, some of whom live on the other side of the country. I also reactivated my connections with people who have no contact with and no interest in my church world. This required intentional efforts of befriending, but it's been worth it. These friendships are indeed life-giving. The conversations are rarely about God, prayer, or religion, and yet after spending time with a good friend, I often leave with a sense of acceptance. I'm calling it grace. The grace of friendship is an intellectual and emotional sense that I've been with someone who puts up with my crap, my quirky habits, and my weak attempts to impress others. They call me out on this nonsense, but in such a way that communicates their love for me. Who are these people in our lives? They are the friends who stand with us in both our times of trial and times of great joy. My friends will let me talk incessantly about my grandchildren, and they'll tolerate my moaning about some aspect of work. What a gift! The Scriptures contain many narratives of comrades, friends, and people walking together through the valley of shame, tumult, and rockin' celebrations. While we tend to think that individuals achieve great things, the truth is that the accomplishments are rarely achieved alone. Moses had Aaron, Ruth and Naomi had each other, and David had Jonathan. There is a temptation to see Jesus as a solitary figure achieving a mission that was based entirely on the individual quest. But I suspect his gathering of 12 disciples was an intentional effort at cultivating friendships. People around us shape us, and we are brought to life by the friends we keep. The philosopher Aristotle was one of the earliest to ponder the value of friendships. He saw friendships as one of the real joys of life and classified them into 3 different types of friendships. Friendships of utility, friendships of pleasure, and friendships of the good. Friendships of utility are those relationships that have a transactional quality. The exchange may be mutual, but it's based on the benefits each person brings. Our coworkers or business partners are examples of this friendship. Yes, we are friendly, but at some level the friendship revolves around an exchange of information, skills, or attaining some other goal. Friendships of pleasure are those in which people connect around an event or activity that brings joy, gratification, or fulfillment. People who spend time together because they enjoy gardening, fishing, or the music their children are making in a school band are examples. Friendships of the good are the most important of the three types, according to Aristotle. These are friendships based on mutual respect, a desire to assist one another and to appreciate each other's abilities and characteristics. We tend to lack this last type of friendship in our lives, yet it's the one we need most. Friendships of the good require cultivation over time. We rarely stumble upon them, though that has happened. The more common path is a series of events, activities, dinners, vacations, outings, and conversations over the long haul. This path is a long and winding road that often includes times of distress and vulnerability. Typically, when we go through those challenging times with another person, the friendship is sealed. Maybe the friendships of the good can only develop when we've gone through the bad together. Are you spending time with friends? Then you are engaging in everyday spirituality. God is in those picnics, camping trips, tailgating parties, trivia nights, coffee shop conversations, and bar stool meetings. The next time you head out the door for time with your close friend, you can announce, "I'm heading to the Red Sox game with my spiritual guide. We'll be praying for home runs and communing with hot dogs and beer."